Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're looking at the MLB Prizepicks, Draftkings, and Fanduel picks for Tuesday, August 23rd. We have a big 15-game slate today, so I'll touch on some of these games quickly, but let's go ahead and get started. As always, if you enjoy the videos, appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. You can check out the other links down below in the description. And let's get started. So, first game up is the Reds against the Phillies. You got Suarez against Lodolo. Suarez really dominated the Reds last time out. Lodolo had a good game against the Phillies earlier. But I still like some of these Phillies bats. Castellanos has been really good recently. 12-game hitting streak for him. Had a home run and a double yesterday. And we know, going back to his days with Detroit and with the Reds, how good he is against lefties. So he would be a Philly that I like. And then you got like Vierling at 2K if you needed somebody cheap. Or you can consider Hoskins as well. Next game up, not really one that I'm looking for bats. The pitching is okay in that Mets game, but there's some better ones that we can look to. We got Max Fried, looks like a good pitcher. Look to him as an SP2 or even an SP1. Today against the Pirates, their offense, besides Reynolds, has been non-existent this year. And then on the Braves side, against Brewbreaker, he's had some good starts, but Rosario's $2,100. Grissom's having a great start to his career. He's only $2,300. Those will be two guys that I really like for value. We have Dylan Cease, who had 13 strikeouts against the Orioles earlier this season. I love him as a pitcher today as a SP1. I like his over on Prizepicks. On the White Sox side, surprisingly, they only have a 4.2 total against Voth, but I still like some of these bats. You got really good cheap hitters with Eloy Jimenez 39, Abreu's only 4K, then the bottom 5 through 9 are all super cheap, so I don't mind the White Sox stack at all today. Blue Jays look like a good team to stack as well against Josh Winowski. He has given up some runs this year, given up some home runs. And then on the Blue Jay side, we have some of these guys are expensive, but if you wanted to get to them as a stack, I don't mind it. Not really anybody that I look to as a one-off. We got Suarez and Kluber, two guys that you could use as SP2s today on DraftKings, with Suarez being only $6,600. Had a couple of good starts last time out, was pitching really well. Perfect game into the sixth, then he just kind of blew up. But it's a good ballpark to pitch in Tropicana Field. Don't have any interest in any offense in that game. The Giants against the Tigers. This ballpark still, it's an okay one. It's better hitting than the Giants are typically used to. But I just have really not really stacked them at all this year. Their offense been struggling. Yastrzemski, Lamonte Wade, two guys that are cheap you could look to. Or Peterson has been like the only source of power for them all season. We saw a 1-0 game between the Cardinals and the Cubs yesterday. We got two pitchers that below average, definitely. Not much about Woodford, but Sampson's giving up, more of a contact pitcher, not a strikeout pitcher. And same thing could be said for Woodford if you dive into his stats, but don't have any really plays in this game. You have Nootbaar is cheap, and then some of these guys like Pujols has been hitting the ball really well, and Dickerson's only 2K. But in general, there's some better teams to stack. Davies against Jonathan Hesley. Another spot where you have two below-average offenses. You could look to some one-offs, like Rojas has been hot, but he's $5,200. These Diamondbacks are expensive. Marte and Rojas, Walker, Varsho, the guys that you want. So definitely some better picks on some other teams. And then same thing for the Royals. Besides Dozier and Massey and rest of these guys, but some of these guys we haven't really heard of too much. The guys that you want, like Bobby Witt, Perez, they're all expensive. Love the Astros today as a stack against Aaron Sanchez. They're at home. Sanchez giving up lots of runs. He struggled over the last couple of years. He was decent a while back with the Blue Jays, but not really. Things haven't really gone his way recently. And then on the Astros side, definitely look to Alvarez if you wanted to pay up for him as an outfielder. You got some other guys like the catcher, Maldonado is super cheap. Pena is only 38. And you can get to Gurriel if you wanted to, or Mancini. We also have a Coors game today between Dunning and Marquez. Two guys that are like the fourth. That should be the fourth option in most teams, but they're like second and third in these respective rotations. Nathaniel Lau is only 36. You have everybody in the 2K range from 6 to 9. So, like Calhoun at only 2K, looks fine, even though he's only batting 100 in his last 10 games. He's 3 for his last 30. And on the Rockies side, I do like Montero. He's had a couple of good games recently, 2 home run game and then another home run game. Recently, even though he's struggling with his average a bit, it's a good ballpark to get that right. And he's only $2,800. Don't need to ask too much for him, but he does give you upside to break, kind of break the slate with the value. Next game up, we can look to some pitching, especially Pablo Lopez, even though he struggled recently as a SP2 option against Oakland. Clevenger looks like an SP2 option as well against the Guardians, even though they don't strike out too much. So he still looks good because he might limit the damage, but we still might not get a max fantasy game from him just with the lack of strikeouts. And then 2 good pitchers, Gonsolin and Corbin Burns. No interest in any offense. Should be a low-scoring game. And then finally, you can look to some Mariners bats. You can look to Robbie Ray as their pitcher. But once again, they're still not super heavy with the K's, even though they traded away a lot of their guys. Still look to some other pitchers besides Robbie Ray. Going back to DraftKings, for me, I'm going with Dylan Cease as my favorite pitcher. He's only $10K, so he's the 4th most expensive pitcher. Good matchup. He struggled in his last start, first time in multiple months, so we can definitely give him a pass. He put up 41 fantasy points against the Orioles earlier. He's much better on the road as well, 1.34 ERA. So, a lot to like with Dylan Cease. And then secondly, I'm going with Ranger Suarez. Been rocky with him a number of times this year. He's not really disappointed. He gets overlooked a lot of the time just because he's not the best strikeout pitcher, but they let him go pretty deep into games. He's been better with his Ks recently, and the Reds just have a lot of Ks in the lineup, and they just don't have a lot of good hitters. So those are 2 guys. Another one would be Pablo Lopez as a SP2, but he's struggling recently, so I have more confidence that Suarez can play better. At first base, going to go with Montero just because he's only $2,800 and a lot to like with that price tag in cores, even though he's only batting 158 in his last 10, striking out a lot. Dunning's been okay with the Ks this year, still he's a little bit below average in terms of MLB starters with the strikeouts. But Montero at $2,800 don't get much cheaper than that. He should be batting 6th, maybe 7th today. Next up at second base, going to go with a Texas Rangers guy, and it's Marcus Semien. So far this season, Marquez has really struggled at home. He's giving up a lot of runs recently. In his this year at home, he's giving up almost a 6 ERA, 5.85, and 15 of his 21 home runs that he's given up have come in cores. And we're looking at Marcus Semien, who he's starting to show more power recently. He didn't have his first home run for a while. He's up to 17 now. Even though last 10 he could definitely be better, but at least the strikeouts are down, only 7 in his last 41 at-bats, so he's seeing the ball. And in this ballpark, you just want to get to as many good quality hitters as you can in Semien. They still have belief in him that he's a good hitter, even though this year he's struggling a bit. And then 2 outfielders that I like. Started off with Castellanos just because he's going up against a lefty, and I do like the Phillies a bit today at home. They should be able to hopefully get to some runs across the board against the Reds, even if they don't get to Lodolo. They could definitely get to that bullpen. He's batting .372, a 600-plus slugging. Now, he's taken a lot of heat this year, and rightfully so, early on. But since the All-Star break, he's done nothing poor. He's done everything that he can. So I'm more confident that he'll be able to come through today now that he's playing better. And then a Houston Astro guy is Yordan Alvarez. Look to get to him just because I like the Astros a lot. Alvarez, it's been a minute since he's had like a crazy good game, and today could definitely be that day where he goes for 20-plus fantasy points, maybe hopefully a home run, maybe 2 would be nice. But that's what I got. Still leaves you with plenty to spend on the rest of your hitters. But Montero, Semien, Castellanos, Alvarez, all guys have home run upside. 2 good pitchers with Cease and Suarez. Let's go ahead and take a look at FanDuel. All right, so on FanDuel, pretty similar. Still going with Dylan Cease as my favorite pitcher at 10-3. On FanDuel, he is the 6th most expensive pitcher. He's even cheaper than Gonsolin. So I really like getting a Cease. And then Nate Lau is pretty cheap at 33. Playable on FanDuel as well, but Montero is third base eligible on FanDuel, so I put him in at $2,700 to get to a third baseman with some power. And then outfield, still sticking with Alvarez and Castellanos. So that's what I got today. Also have like Bo Bichet's pretty cheap on FanDuel, but in terms of stacking today, like the cores, both sides of the cores games, Rangers, Rockies, like the Phillies a bit, Astros, and I would say the Blue Jays would be the main teams on my list. Now let's go over to Prizepicks. So yesterday's 3-1 on the Prizepicks. Max Scherzer, of course, was the one that sold. So that was disappointing. But hit the over fantasy on Springs, over fantasy complete game, shutout for Montgomery and the Nerfy in the Angels game. I got 4 more picks today, so let's hopefully get 3-1, if not 4-0. Actually, I might got 5. Actually, I have 5 picks for you guys. First one up is give you guys a couple Nerfies. Sticking with the Athletics, Marlins got a great ballpark, 2 bad offenses. Lopez has been quality all season, even though last month he's struggling. And then hopefully Zach Loud can get through this Marlins team, which hasn't really shown any life recently. So that's the first Nerfy. Second one is going to be Suarez against Corey Kluber. Suarez pitching pretty well, at least in the beginning of games. Last time out, late in the game, he kind of blew up, but he's gotten off to some good starts. And then game before that, pitched really, really well. And then Corey Kluber going up against this high strikeout Angels team at home. Think he'll be able to survive the first inning. Another one that you could look to could possibly be the Padres one. You could even look to the Royals one, and possibly even the Pirates one, just because you have Fried, just worried about the Braves, and the same thing could be said for the White Sox, just because you're basically just worried about the White Sox bats, you're not really worried about the Orioles getting to cease early on. But these are 2 that I really like. In terms of strikeouts, Dylan Cease over 6.5. I mean, he doubled this total with 13 earlier against the Orioles. He still strike out a lot. At times, and especially if a guy like Dylan Cease can get going, he can just get really into a great rhythm and just start mowing them down. So Cease is the 3rd pick. The 4th one will be Dane Dunning at over 3.5 Ks, just because it's pretty low. So if you look at his game log, in terms of getting you at least 4 strikeouts, it's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight games. Make that 6 of 7. Make that 7 of 9. And then you can keep going. It's 8 of 10 or 8 of 11. And then you got a nice streak besides that 1 strikeout game where you had 7, 5, 8, 6, 6, 5, 7, 5. Getting back into the early part of this year. So if you tally them all up for this year, 23 starts, 19 of them, he's gotten you at least 4 strikeouts. I really like the odds of that happening again today. Give me the over 3.5 strikeouts. And then the 4th prop is another pitcher prop. Oh, I'm sorry. That was the 4th pitcher prop. The last one I was considering was some of these Phillies are pretty low against a lefty. Like if Castellanos was here, I would like to take his over. But could look to Rhys Hoskins at 7 only. That would be the 5th one if you want to add. Otherwise, actually, I think these 4 I have more confidence in. Sometimes I just don't like taking hitter props unless I have to. See if Simeon is on here. He looks okay. He's at 8.5. That one also looks fine. But if you just wanted to stick with some pitcher props and some Nerfies, that's what I got. A couple of Nerfies with the Oakland and Marlins game, the Rays game, and then 2 strikeout props with Cease and Dunning. That's all I got for you guys today. Thank you for watching. Best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.